Welcome. Another episode, Dr. James Beckett Sports Card Insights. Thanks sponsors, Beckett Media, Beckett Grading, Beckett Authentication, ComC.com, Burbank Sports Cards, Mike's Stadium Sports Cards, Heritage Auctions, Huggins & Scott Auctions, Topps, Panini, and Upper Deck. Welcome, John Clemens, a longtime media veteran announcer. We're going to talk about your experiences in doing that and what overlap that has with the hobby, as well as some hobby collector protocol for you being a collector and you being in the profession. And maybe you can help some of our listeners understand some of the unwritten rules that come with having that proximity to players, whether they're minor league or major league. They want to go about their business of playing. And so, John, welcome to the show. I'm interested to hear your take on the situations you've been in with respect to loving sports and loving collecting and really serving baseball and serving the team, and mainly baseball. So welcome, John.
Thank you, Jim. I have a resume that looks like a Rand McNally road atlas. In all my years of broadcasting, Durham, North Carolina at WSSB, at Rochester Red Wings working at WROC, Tulsa Drillers working at KRMG, here in Dallas, working with the Frisco Rough Riders and the Dallas Sidekicks and the Dallas Tycoons. All those teams I've always tried to use as a defining decision to move to Durham, North Carolina, to Rochester, New York, to Tulsa, Oklahoma, to Dallas, Texas, working for radio stations that were closely associated with a professional sports team. Then I could eventually use that part-time work as a way that I could work for a team in that community. And it has worked out every time. And as I look at my resume, I said, wow, I've been all over the place. But in each case, it's been the association with a team, a sporting team.
And the teams, do you, again, there's, like I say, for the benefit of our collector listeners, being collector and then being in the business and being right there with the players, what are the do's and don'ts when you have the kind of access that many collectors dream about?
The one advantage I had when I would do post-game interviews or pre-game interviews for the radio station that would go on the radio affiliate of that team, in each case, you become familiar with the ball player, and they become familiar with you unless they're just been called up or sent down or what have you. But in each case, there's been offers made to sign something or giving me a baseball or a card if I had it with them. Some of the unusual things that we collect over the years, it just amazes me. Like I've got a 1960 not whole game membership card from the Rochester Red Wings. I've got a Rochester T206 card. I've got a flag from the Frisco Rough Riders. I've got a calling card from the Rochester Red Wings, only because the business card was so unique. It was in the shape of a baseball with the baseball stitching on it. So I would save that over the years and keep that and have different ball players sign it. But one of the things that I have been able to do over the years is every team I've worked for, including the Texas Tycoons and the Rochester Red Wings, I've saved either a hat or a shirt from that team. And eventually, on my bucket list again, I wanted to make a collage where I could track all the teams I've worked for over the years, including the press badges that I collected over the years.
But I'm just trying to get at whether it's transactional or relational. It sounds more relational. It doesn't sound like you're hounding anybody.
Right.
It sounds like you're there and there's stuff. Are people giving you stuff? Are you trading stuff with, for example, players or executives? Or what's the nature of it? It sounds very relational, and many collectors just kind of seem like they just show up at the ballpark and hound the players for as many autographs they can get on whatever cards they have.
Yeah, when you see like the Dr. Pepper ballpark along the foul line, it is usually loaded with collectors, and that's what the collectors know, that the ball players are coming out of the clubhouse, so they congregate there and just yell out, hey, Joe, or hey, Sam, what have you, can you sign my ball for me? You're right. Mine is more relational. It's more an opportunity. To me, one of the best jobs you can have. Could you imagine going to a sporting event and getting paid for it? I've often said going to the baseball game and getting paid for it and enjoying it and getting treated very well by the team and usually have the best seat in the house. I mean, if you're in the press box, you usually got a pretty good view of the field of action, and you don't have to pay for that. You sit there in air conditioned comfort, and there you are. I remember when I did the PA public address announcing for the Rough Riders for 16 years. The PA booth used to sit right over the top of home plate. What better? It's like a big video game. That's the thrill to me of sitting in there, having people bring you Dr. Pepper or a hot dog, and you get paid for it.
Well, again, it's still you got to pay attention, and you have to have the skill that you have that I don't, of having a great radio voice. But my question is, when it seems like it wouldn't be a job that somebody would seek out for. They might seek it out for that perk, but the perk of being able to get a whole bunch of memorabilia, it doesn't sound like that's there. I mean, you weren't. If the team won the league championship, were you getting a diamond encrusted ring? I don't think so.
I have 2 championship rings, one from the Dallas Sidekicks and one from the Frisco Rough Riders, that I cherish. And my thought, because I have 4 grandchildren and 2 different families, how can I leave them 4 championship rings when I only have 2? So I'm going to have to have somebody put them in a box or something, and they'll have to draw them out. But those championship rings mean a lot to me, and they bring back so many memories, whether it be the Dallas Sidekicks, which is enormous. I mean, the thing is, it looks like a World Series ring, and then the Frisco Rough Rider ring.
Now you're talking. Now you're talking. Now you've got some people interested in your job. I think at least if you get hooked up with a great organization that's winning championships, of which is not a sure thing in any sports. But again, we're Sports Card Insights here. What touch of the cards? I mean, did you ever have to talk any players off the ledge who got frustrated with collectors bugging them too much? Did that ever happen? Because you kind of understand both sides.
Yeah, I like the ball players that that are paying attention to the people who are asking for their autograph. The young kids get number 1 on the pecking order. That's always good. But the people that are making a living off of collecting your autograph usually get shunned away. But a lot of the ball players, you can just see, like every third one, they'll pick and choose, or like a little girl holding up a baseball. They'll take that baseball and sign it more than they would somebody that's going to get, make $100 or a couple $100 out of your autograph. Those are the ball players that I like, and that means a lot to the kid. They got an autographed baseball.
So you're saying facial hair is a deal breaker?
That's right. That's right. All those wrinkles.
Note to self. Okay. Don't. But again, I mean, the players are trying to be accommodating, but I think there's some people that would just, would ask for as many autographs as the player would be willing to give, and they would never run out of scraps of paper or programs or balls or cards to sign. But
yeah, I remember growing up at a lot of the major leaguers came through Rochester barnstorming, trying to make some extra money back then. And I remember Rocky Colavito turning me down for an autograph on a baseball. And then I went around to the other side when he was getting into his car. I had to ask him again because I thought he was a cool ball player, Rocky Colavito, and he turned me down again. So ever since that time, Rocky Colavito was not my favorite ball player. I can tell you that much.
Well, he was a great ball player for many years and had a great following. But not every ball player. Is there any orientation that the minor league players get that helps them understand the collecting mindset? Whether it's autographs or cards, or they just kind of pick it up in the clubhouse talking to other players? Because I don't know that they fully understand that, like you said, that the collectors are substantial, not substantially, but are a big part of people who are basically paying their salaries, because without fans, there's not a professional game. So how do they pick up on collecting etiquette, or, like you're saying, these unwritten rules of, if you're a little boy or a little girl, you've got a pretty good shot. If you're not, you may get passed over.
Jim, you touched on a subject that I have long promoted. Number one, like with the Frisco Rough Riders, they have 2 chaplains on staff there, one Anglo and one Hispanic, that they work with the ball players and just explain to them some of the pitfalls that could happen to young ball players making a lot of money for the very first time, or just scraping by making some money. And at the other end of a career, to work with ball players who have reached the end of what they have achieved for 10, 20, 30 years, 40 years. And now they don't know what to do. So I remember guys like Mickey Tettleton and people like that. It's a very difficult transition at the beginning of a baseball career on how to handle yourself, from autographs to money. There should be somebody there to help that young man, and at the other end of the career, somebody to help them move out of the sport and move away from the team that they have loved so much.
You mentioned from autographs to money, and that's the transition that becomes an equality. That basically, when the Mickey Tettletons of the world, when their playing career is over, and if they don't stay in the game as a coach, then their autograph can be converted to money on some level. I think
Right.
you can't saturate, but there's a lot of demand for former big league players just for their autographs. So I'm glad that some of the players have that opportunity. And again, it brings that dynamic element. And surely you saw that. Were there again, when you're right there, you're doing the public address and some of the announcing, all that. You're recognizing there are other dignitaries that are at the game. Did you notice that non-baseball players at some of the games that you were covering would also get hit for autographs?
Oh yeah.
I mean, what was that like? Was that similar?
I'm sorry?
Was that similar?
Yeah, it was similar. A lot of times they'll have fan appreciation night, or one of the hit TV shows will come out. With Gunther, with the guy with the Friends episodes, he was with the Frisco Rough Riders one night when they had Friends night, and they played the music and film clips and what have you. There was a line longer than it was stretched all over the place just to get his autograph and get the picture taken with him. But the fans loved it because they could have the opportunity of meeting Gunther, the waiter from Friends, and get their picture taken with him.
Well, I love that. Like I said, it's autograph collecting encompasses a lot more than just sports. And being at the ball game is, as you've shared, you get paid to be there and to help fans relate to the game. So my hat's off to you, John. You love your job and you do it well. And I think it's great that you are a passionate collector as well. So we're out of time today. Thanks, John Clemens. Thanks, listeners. Be back again tomorrow with another episode. The man in the house of cards.